Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming on to this Zoom presentation for the Lyle F. Renodin Foundation. My name is Sister Margaret McGee, and I'm a member of the congregational leadership and also have the opportunity to facilitate these Zoom presentations and meetings. We will mute everyone once we begin the presentation, and we will highlight the speakers so that you'll know who is presenting. And I think with that, we can turn it over to Jim.
Okay, well, thank you. My name is Jim Shifley, and I'm the current chair of the board of directors for the Dr. Lyle F. Renodin Foundation.
Jim, just 1 second. Let me mute everyone, and then I'll ask you to unmute.
Okay.
Okay, Jim. Sorry about that.
All right, that's no problem.
Go ahead.
Sure. So I'm in my 5th year on the board and honored to be part of this foundation board. I attended St. John's Parochial School in North Olean, and the Franciscan Sisters have played a big part in my early education. So I'm humbled by the opportunity to work again with them in this capacity to help the poor and marginalized folks in our area. I'll now kind of turn this over to Laura, who's the president, and we'll be able to provide more information about the foundation.
Great, thank you, Jim. I'm just going to share my screen here with everybody. Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I hope this is informational for everybody. Some of you may know some of the history of us and some may not, so it'll kind of bring everybody up to speed. Just wanted to start with our history from St. Francis Hospital to today. As many of you might know, our Franciscan Sisters of Allegany had a hospital in Olean, New York, which is actually just down the road from our mother house here in Allegany, called St. Francis Hospital. It started in the late 30s, I believe. And in the 90s, they merged with Olean General Hospital. And you can see there on the right, there's the statue of St. Francis that stood out in front of the hospital has now been moved to a garden at Olean General Hospital to help maintain some of that history and heritage. Oops, let me just go back for a minute. So when our sisters merged the hospital with Olean General Hospital and St. Francis ceased to exist, the remaining assets that they had left from that consolidation kind of sat around for a little bit. They thought of some ideas of what to do with it. They were using it for some of their own ministries at the time. And in the early 2000s, they decided, you know what, let's make this last. Let's start up a foundation so that we can continue to serve the local community within our mission and charism, but make it last much longer than the actual funds they had. And at the time, it was a little under $1 million. So in the early 2000s, after they kind of got the foundation started and were looking as to what should they name it, they decided on their longtime friend and financial advisor and accountant, Dr. Lyle F. Renodin. So he is like Jim Shifley, he's a product of the sisters. He was taught by them in Croghan, New York as a boy. And throughout the years, as he became a partner in Walquist Renodin, an accounting firm, he had a lot of relationship with the sisters, providing them with a lot of great financial advice that they probably heed today. So in honor of him, they decided to name the foundation after him. And he is living in Albany, New York today, and he still serves as a trustee to our foundation as well as a great friend. And here are some of the gentlemen that are still involved with the firm Walquist Renodin. They provide financial services to us. Jim Alun Jr., who's in from the left, he is our financial consultant, and his dad on the far right, Jim Alun Sr., many of you sisters who are on the call, of course, probably knew him. And sadly, he passed away in 2019, but his son has picked up the mantle graciously and helps us out with our financial statements and advisement with our assets. Okay, so since that history from the hospital where we started with just a little under $1 million, and this foundation was formed and grants started coming together, in come some of the other people who have been involved. So I started as a board member in 2006 with the Franciscan Sisters. I worked for a local organization, served as a voluntary board member. And then in 2014, they were looking at making some changes, they meaning the sisters, with some of their other sponsored ministries. And at the time decided to bring St. Elizabeth Mission Society in partnership with Dr. Lyle F. Renodin Foundation. So back in 2014, I became the president and director of both organizations. And on the left there, you see Sister Chris Doherty. She was my predecessor here in the Mission Society. And now we operate both the Renodin Foundation and the Mission Society out of the Mission Society office here in the Mother House. And so that's our lovely little workplace. We've got an office up there. And I'm going to allow my staff to introduce you to themselves. I don't know who is up first. Uta, if you could unmute yourself, please, and introduce yourself.
Had to find myself and unmute. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. As many of you know, my name is Uta Atwater, and I work the position of business manager of St. Elizabeth's Mission Society. The majority of my work, of course, deals with the Mission Society, but in addition to that, it is my great pleasure to be able to serve in administrative tasks and accounting for the Dr. Lyle Renodin Foundation. The involvement encompasses many areas that start with processing of incoming donations, assistance that I provide when there is a need to write checks for the grants and to get them sent out. And I, of course, provide our director and president, Laura Whitford, with monthly and yearly accounting data. And that sums about everything up. And I thank you for your time and hand the mic over to the next person.
Thank you, Uta. And Courtney, if you'll introduce yourself, please, and remember to unmute.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Courtney Walters, and I'm the communications coordinator. I graduated from Houghton College with my bachelor's in communications and public relations. I handle a lot of the admin work. I answer the phone, I answer emails to our grantees, and I run and maintain the website as well. I also send out thank yous to our donors, as well as work pretty closely with Laura with all of the grant work that we do as well.
Thank you, Courtney. And Courtney helped put together today's lovely presentation as well. Okay, so when we talk about those funds that started from St. Francis and this foundation and making it last, what does that mean? What is it that we're doing every day and every year to serve the people in our local community? So on the slide there, you can see our mission, that we're attentive to the religious tradition and pastoral mission of the Franciscan Sisters of Allegany, committed to the gospel stance of social justice, which is lived out in a spirit of love, healing, and compassion. And then our mission statement also goes on to say that we'll serve this tri-county area, which is Cattaraugus and Allegany counties in New York, as well as McKean County in PA. So in summary, we're here to help those who are poor and marginalized in those three counties. And what does that look like? To date, since our inception of the foundation, we've given away over $1.3 million. And we've impacted over 100,000 people, giving away 463 grants to 79 agencies. So I love to celebrate those numbers and think about how far we've come in just under 20 years. That money easily could have just been spent on particular ministries of the sisters at the time. And so I'm so grateful that they chose to make those dollars last. We give out little bits at a time, about $60,000 to $80,000 in grant funding every single year. and we invest what we have so that we can continue to grow and serve people in the future. So the main part of our mission is that we give grants. And as I explained, we do that in the 3-county area. Anybody applying has to be a 501c3 organization. And when they apply, they have to show a connection to that mission of the foundation that I mentioned, as well as the program they're applying for has to assist those who are poor, older adults, individual with developmental and physical disabilities are our main guidelines. A few years ago, we moved to an online grant application and report process, which has worked out really well. It helps streamline everything coming into the office. It makes everything easier to look at and review and make sure that we don't miss anything. So thank you to our grantees who are on the call today for adjusting to that change and continuing to work with us that way. We have 2 grant cycles. People can apply February 1st or August 1st, but they're only allowed to get 1 grant per year. So when we give out those grants, how are we deciding who they go to? So there's a picture of our board of directors from a couple years ago. And we have a grant recommendation funding committee that reviews all the grants in detail. They look at the applications. Courtney, as she said, provides a summary. And we sometimes, most times, have a lot of hard choices to make because we have more applications than we do dollars to give away. But those dollars that we do give away come down to these main areas of support that you see there in front of you. A lot of what we give, we say, is benevolence. And under benevolence is basically helping those who are poor in the way of food. That could be a food pantry. We also fund a couple different organizations to provide fresh vegetables to local people. Rental and homeless assistance. Sometimes people can't afford their rent, their utilities. Sometimes they need help with security deposit to start up in a new home. So that takes on different looks. Definitely a lot of clothing through thrift stores and other organizations. We have some that provide shoes and socks to kids, shoes and socks to homeless people, various different youth programs. A lot of those end up being camps probably. Sometimes they're camps for at-risk youth. Sometimes they're day programs for children who need some extra support. Childcare is another big one that we serve. And with older adults, that takes the form of Meals on Wheels. We've funded a senior center in the past, or a couple different senior serving organizations, just to help make their lives a little bit more comfortable and enjoyable. And then we also support individuals with developmental and physical disabilities. And I see disabilities was cut off there, but you can see a picture there of Mari Howard with In Tandem. We've helped support their years of service banquet for many years. So the individuals that work with them get recognized for their great work over the course of time. Some of the people have worked there 20 and 30 years, maybe even more. So we help in a very small way by supporting that banquet and recognizing people who work really hard. And there you can see the counties that we serve. Cattaraugus, Allegany, and McKean County is that tri-county area. Unfortunately, if we get an application outside that area, we don't accept it, as that's not within our guidelines. And I won't read through all these, but just wanted you to kind of see the snapshot of what we've done in the last year. There are spring 2020 grants. We gave away 14 grants totaling a little over $34,000. You can see all the various organizations. And there's some for the fall as well. In the fall, last fall, we gave 16 grants totaling $32,500. So for any of our grantees on the call, remember that our deadline is August 1st coming up. I'll be asking for your reports due July 1st. And just wanted to walk you through a few of the great pictures that we have from our grantees. As I said, we serve in various ways with our mission, and it's always the people, I call them the boots on the ground, the people that work directly with those who are poor in our community. They have the hard work on their shoulders, and it takes on many different forms. Sometimes it's as simple as, you'll see in the picture on the bottom, it says Art for Rural America. That's a community garden in Wellsville, and Wellsville's in Allegheny County, very poor county. And they've started a community garden that anybody can come and pick fresh vegetables, and they needed little tag markers. We also help the Boy Scouts. They're the picture in the canoes. We help provide financial assistance to young, I think mostly boys, but they're accepting girls now to have a camping experience, which is really wonderful. Canico Farm has received a lot of support from us. They provide fresh vegetables to those who are poor through many different food pantries in the area. Cuba First Baptist Church, they've provided school supplies and backpacks. They're an agency in Allegany County. Interfaith Caregivers, they do a lot of work with helping probably mostly older adults get to appointments in our area, and they have volunteers that drive them, so we help appreciate their volunteers. In the picture in the upper right is Cribs for Kids, the Care for Children program that's down in Bradford. We provide cribs so that little ones, when they're born, have a safe place to sleep. And we found over the years, we funded that for several different agencies. And that's a very important thing. When children are born, sometimes people only have a dresser drawer to put them in. Keeping them in their beds, we know now, is not safe in their own beds with the parents. So it's just another way that we're able to help. We fund a lot of food pantries. On the left is one of our former board members, Mary Jo Black, with the Loaves and Fishes Southern Tier Food Pantry here in Olean. Veggie Wheels in the upper right, they're another organization that provides fresh produce to local people. They get right into different sections of Olean where people live that are usually in the lower income bracket. The Master's Plan on the bottom, they're kind of they do a lot of things. They're up in Dayton, New York, and they serve many people who are poor up there. So it's the top part of Cattaraugus County. They're not as close to Olean to get some of the services people have down here. They're not close enough to Buffalo. They don't live in Erie County. So it's a critical part of the county that they serve, either with food, clothing, rental assistance, food baskets. Those are the types of things that we provide there. Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Erie, Niagara, and Southern Tier is a new program for us. They're trying to make a foothold in our local area as far as pairing up volunteer mentors, adults, with young children who could benefit from having an adult in their life to just to care about them and do fun things with them. Bradford Hospital Foundation provides Meals on Wheels to some older adults. They're in that center picture. And Cuba Cultural Center on the right has a huge food pantry in Cuba. They also, and a distribution several times a month, they give away 6 million pounds of food, tons, excuse me, 6 tons of food every month, which I found to be phenomenal. So that was one of their bags. We also do a backpack program with them, as well as some other organizations. When kids go to school, or during normal times when kids are going to school, they get a free lunch program. Well, what happens in the evenings and on the weekends or school breaks? We know obviously people have a lot of access to food pantries, but many times they're only able to go to that food pantry once, and it's not once a month, and it's not enough for the entire month. So places like Cuba Cultural Center, we also fund Mission Agape in Friendship. They provide these backpack programs where they send home food for the kids during those off-school times. Destinations Bradford on the left, they're in Bradford, and currently what we're helping them with is like emergency travel funds. Sometimes people have to travel out of the Bradford area to go to doctor's appointments, something like that. So we've helped with that. We've also helped with some of the other sort of benevolence that I discussed in the past. Kevin Guest House on the bottom, and I know we have some representation from there today. They're an organization in Buffalo, and so you might ask, well, how do you fund them when they're not clearly in that Tri-County area that you outlined? They serve a lot of people from our area. One might even argue they serve more from down here than the actual Buffalo area, because if you're in Buffalo, you don't need to spend the night. So they're a wonderful organization that provides housing or overnights or sometimes even longer stays for people when they have loved ones in the hospital going through testing, cancer treatments, surgeries, anything like that. They're a nice, safe, comfortable, homey place to stay. People come in sometimes and bring food for the family staying. And so we provide financial assistance to people from Cattaraugus County that are staying up there. And so there's a little sign that they have in their entryway that recognizes and thanks us for our support. On the right is another Cribs for Kids sign. We also do that here in Olean, New York with Southern Tier Healthcare System. I saw Donna on the call today. So again, another way that we provide a safe sleeping space for children. Warming House, I saw Ann on the call. I'm trying to think, we usually help them with cleaning supplies and food purchases. We funded them for a few different things, and we also fund them through our other organization, the Mission Society, but there's a picture of the kids in the kitchen. The St. Vincent de Paul thrift shop on the bottom. A lot of what we help with there is that rent and utility assistance that I talked about. And sometimes just a little bit means the difference between somebody being evicted or not. It helps them keep up with their payments. And on the right, as one of our current board members, Bob, he's on the call, and Sister Mary Jean was a former board member. We provide childcare assistance for the YMCA of Twin Tiers, specifically the Olean YMCA. So that might not have felt brief, but it is a brief summary of all the ways that we help what amounts to about 4,000 people probably in our local area every year in those categories that I mentioned. But what I'd like to do is for you to hear from a couple of our grantees themselves, because they can say it best how they serve people. So we're going to start with Vickie Hedlund with the Olean General Hospital Foundation. We give them a grant every year for that supports their pastoral care department and their sick and needy fund. I won't say anything else about it now in case Vickie's going to cover it. And I'll quit sharing my screen, Vickie. And if you unmute and take it from there, please.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you today and to share my passion for this ministry that you so graciously support. June 12th will mark 9 years for me here at Olean General Hospital, 3 years as a per diem chaplain under Sister Dana Hollis, and 6 years now full-time as head of the department, the pastoral care department. In all these years, my devotion to this ministry has never dimmed. Even through the past year with COVID, God has been faithful to renew my strength each morning. Funds from the Dr. Lyle F. Renodin Foundation support this ministry in two ways. Foremost, in outreach to the poor, and secondly, with the purchase of religious supplies, such as Catholic Bibles and rosaries, living faith devotionals, and communion hosts. Most of the outreach to the poor takes place through our emergency department, when those who are in the midst of crisis have nowhere else to turn. Often people need help with transportation, and I know that that sounds trivial on the surface, but let me share just one instance of many to show you how important that really is. Sometimes we'll have an infant who is in distress, needs to be transported to Oshai Children's Hospital, and there's a young couple that do not have the funds to purchase gasoline to drive to Buffalo. So imagine their heartbreak when they think that they cannot be with their baby until someone in the ER tells them about Lyle F. Renodin Foundation funds. And then they have money in their pocket to be able to drive to Buffalo and be with their baby. And as you know, many in our community right now are finding themselves out of work suddenly and trying to figure out how to cope. A gentleman who was previously in our ED with complications from a heart condition returned again shortly after that. And when he was questioned about whether or not he had taken the medications that were prescribed for him last visit, he became very embarrassed, but he admitted to us that he had not. And the reason for that was because he did not have the funds to purchase the medication. So our ED staff wrote a new script. They gave him funds to purchase the medication, and they also helped him to discern where he would be able to get help with medications in the future. So, as you can imagine, at times like this, those in need are deeply impacted and grateful for the help that you support them with. Finally, I'd like to share a story regarding the religious supplies that we are able to offer. When a Catholic patient is visited here at the hospital by a chaplain, they are asked if they would like a visit from their parish priest. They're offered a Catholic Bible, a Living Faith devotional, and a rosary. Well, recently, I asked Father David to come to the hospital to bless rosaries for me. And I had a large brown paper bag, half full of them. And Father David said, that is a lot of rosaries. But I assured him that we would definitely use them. And the next morning he called me to inform me that he had been called to the ICU in the night before to anoint a dying patient. And while he was there, a young nurse in our ICU said to the chaplain, "Do we have a rosary for the patient?" Father David piped up and he said, "Pastor Vickie has a whole bag full of them in her file cabinet." And so he told me that he was so impressed with this young Catholic nurse, with her caring and her deep faith. Well, I had to share with Father David that that particular nurse isn't Catholic, but she understands the importance of it, because the staff here have seen me lay a rosary in the hand of an unconscious dying patient. And at that moment, seeing the calm that comes over them as they wrap their fingers around those beads. You know, I could share all day stories about what happens here with the funds that we receive from the Dr. Lyle F. Renodin Foundation and the immeasurable number of people who have been impacted by them. I could share so many stories from the past year, which has been very, very difficult. Pastors and priests were not allowed into the building. Actually, the Bishop Scharfenberger up in Buffalo gave me permission to give communion to Catholic patients during that time when no one else could come in. So it's just, it's been amazing to me just to see the lives that have been touched by what you do. And I want to say that I and all of us here at Olean General Hospital thank you from the bottom of our hearts for allowing us to share your gifts with our patients. And I personally consider it an honor to represent you in this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Vickie, for that moving summary of the many, many things that all of you do at Olean General Hospital to continue living out the mission and charism of the Franciscan Sisters of Allegany. That's just one little piece that lives specifically at Olean General, but as I described before, it does live on in many other organizations. And, oops, sorry, I'm trying to share my screen here. Sorry, I'm trying to go between two computers here. So our next speaker that we have is Elizabeth O'Neill. She's with Saving Grace Outreach. You might have remembered me describing the master's plan in Dayton. She's serving in Cattaraugus County It's another very poor, a little bit remote section of the county, and that it's not right here in Olean to get all those services that people need. And if you'll take note of that hygiene display on the right, she was going to talk about that in her discussion today. And on the left, they don't look like backpacks, but there are backpacks in those bags. Another way that they help the kids in the local area. So Elizabeth, if you would unmute yourself, please, and talk to us a little bit more about your program.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me today, and welcome everybody. My name is Elizabeth O'Neill. I run Saving Grace Outreach. It is in the village of Cattaraugus, and we've been here for 12 years now, going on 13. And we focus on food, clothing, and emergency shelter. So as she was saying, we have a good partnership with our school, and we do the backpacks for the school supplies and getting the kids ready to go back to school when they, even during COVID, they still needed school supplies. So that really didn't stop. The way we handed it out was a little different, but we made it work. It's been a big challenge during COVID. I'm not going to lie. I basically had to lay off almost all my volunteers because of they're all over 65, and I didn't want to have them exposed to anything, you know. And when it was first initiated back in, I think March, we finally decided to close everything down. So my family really stepped up. My kids actually helped me. They, you know, were still in school, but they were doing the remote. So they were here working and helping run the food pantry. And it was a big challenge. I'm not going to lie. And my kids had to go to Target and pick up Target and Walmart. And it was a family experience. So I cannot thank my kids that are in college, that came home, went back to school. It's been a crazy year, to say the least. But with that being said, the Renodin Foundation has helped us so many years with the backpack program. We've done, we do car seats for families that may not be able to afford them, that it may be a divorced parent or a parent for the first time that just doesn't have the funds to actually go and purchase car seats for their either one or two children. So we help offset that cost. And I am a certified child passenger safety tech, so I would help them install it in their vehicle and make sure they understand how it works and to keep their child safe. We also do emergency assistance through utilities and rent, and we try to fill the gaps. I am a member of the Cattaraugus FEMA board, so I know all my other area partners and what we fund. So we always try to work together and fill the pockets in different ways that we can, but sometimes there's that gap where they may not qualify for a program, or the program's not available to them because they work or other issues with income. So we try to fill that gap and make things work. Like if they need a security for water, to get their water on, we try to step up because of you guys and your partnership, that we can do that. And we can say, you know what, we can help you get that water on. We can help you get your electric turned on. They're trying their best. They're working at, trying to stay independent. And we want to make that, we want to try and fill that gap so that doesn't, they don't have any issues with making ends meet. So we also provide cribs to, if there's a new mom or a new dad that has a baby and they need a crib, that's something that we also do. We also have hygiene products. That's our big need right now. We see a lot with the food. People are okay. We do the curbside delivery. They're not real happy that they can't come and shop right now. We're working on getting that, back together once COVID's a little more, vaccinations are out and people are more willing to come in. But we do the hygiene products at the trading post. So once they come to us on our new building, we have a food distribution center now where we actually are pretty much around the corner from our main location, and they can actually drive up to our curb and we load them with their food and tell them to come to the trading post to get their hygiene products. So we have it all on display. They have a limit of how long they can be there. We try and space everybody out, make it, follow the COVID guidelines, but they really enjoy picking out hygiene products because they know what they need for their families. We don't know if they need laundry detergent or toothpaste this, month or this 2 weeks. They come every 2 weeks. So whatever they need, they're allowed to get. And it's just such a blessing to our families and all the people that are here in Cattaraugus, because really there is no grocery store here. The only thing that we have locally is a Dollar General. they have no local produce or anything. So our produce, we always have out continually, thank goodness, like to Walmart and Target. We can get that to this area and have it out for people to select and get stuff at least 3 times a week. So that's a huge bonus. And we also collect like bread and stuff and have that in the store, so people can have a little more help if they need it or they can't afford it that week. We try to make sure that we always have the emergency food available and the produce and things that are not available in our area until the farm market starts showing up this summer. But it's such a blessing to be able to partner with you guys and be able to step up and just fill the gaps wherever they are, because there are a lot of them. And in our area, the transportation is a big issue, and we're working on that. And thank goodness that we have even one bus that comes through our area, because we do as well have the issue with people trying to go to Buffalo if they have to get their children up to Oshai or have a regular treatment. If they're a cancer patient, we try to provide gas cards as well for people to be able to do that. So again, with your partnership, this is all possible, and we would have no other funding for that. So I cannot thank you guys enough. It is such a blessing to be the hands and feet of Christ in our area. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth, too, for your excellent description of what it is that you do to serve not only a remote part, but for real people who have real problems, the same as there are in many other places. And I know one of the things Dr. Renodin would always say when he was able to come to our meetings, he'd say, I can't believe how much is done with such a very little amount. And, when we talk about all this money that we've given away and how many grants we've given, these are grants that are less than $5,000. Lately, the last few years have been tough to fund everybody. At some points, we've had over $100,000 in requests for one grant cycle and $33,000 to fund. Our board has done a great job trying to spread it out among everybody. So just about everybody gets a little instead of a few getting a lot. And thank you to all of you grantees on the call who really do a great job just spreading it out and making that help last the best way that you can. So I'm going to finish up with a few things here. And we're almost done. So the main part of our mission, as we've described now for over a half an hour, is to fund grants in the local area. And with that, part of that is the community collaborations aspect. As Elizabeth said a few times in your talk, that they're partnering with the Renodin Foundation. And I like us to be able to look at it that way, instead of us being the funder and they're the fundee or the grantee. We really do try to partner as best we can with our grantees to help them be successful in their applications. Our board members pre-COVID did a great job of visiting grantee organizations. We used to do a lot more every year, at least go to 5 to 10 grantees, probably a year, board members coming to all of them. And that wasn't possible in this past year. We're hoping to pick that up again. And I encourage, and if there are grantees on the call, I encourage you, if you do have new programs, I'd always rather talk to you about it first than you just trying to put in an application and hope for the best. We do try to field those calls and work with you. One major way that we had a community collaboration in the past year was the COVID-19 Response Fund for Cattaraugus County. And this happened in response, obviously, to COVID last March. As Elizabeth said, they closed down everywhere, kind of closed down. Here in our offices, here in the Mother House, we had to move into remote offices in our homes. And immediately, the Cattaraugus Region Community Foundation responded by getting us together with them and the United Way of Cattaraugus County to start up this COVID response fund. And I'm pleased to say that a year later, we've had 3 grant cycles awarding $66,000 to the local community in response to those immediate COVID needs. And you can see there the types of support. And many of those will probably look familiar to what the Renodin Foundation is funding. Some of our grantees, it's been a hard year for everybody. Some of our grantees, actually, I think it might have been you, Elizabeth, opted not to apply to the Renodin Foundation because she was getting COVID funds. Our grantees are normally very humble in their requests and understand that there are other people out there looking for funds, and don't try to be greedy with that. So we appreciate that. But we also did have a couple grantees in the past year have to return the funds because their programs didn't run. So it's nice to have this other response fund to help other people in the community. And a lot of people still don't know about the Renodin Foundation. As much as we've tried to be in the press, I was just gathering today, we had 30 articles in the newspaper in the last year that mentioned our name, which is really fabulous, but there's still a lot of people who don't know about us. So this was a great way for us to partner and do our part in response to this terrible pandemic that we've had. But at the same time, it gives us a lot of hope too for the future about different ways we can handle things, what the needs are, how to respond to them. So we've looked at the past of St. Francis Hospital, where it's brought us today, how we're living our mission, and what's in the future for the Dr. Lyle F. Renodin Foundation. When I started on the board back in 2006, the general or corporate office of the Franciscan Sisters of Allegany was doing all the administrative work. The board members were heavily involved with the foundation. And then back, on to 2014, when I started, this became my day job to work for both of the Mission Society and the Renodin Foundation has been a huge blessing to me to be able to be more involved. And now we're at the point in time of looking at our future and asking, what is God calling us to do? And I don't have that answer for you today. But I like this picture that came from the Boy Scouts of all those intertwined hands working together. We are looking at ways of further collaboration at this point in time. We want to know how we're going to be able to continue funding people in the future and making sure that critical support is given to people in the same manner that it has been for these 20+ years in the spirit of the mission and charism of the Franciscan Sisters of Allegany. So for today, we're hoping to continue on in the same way that we have. It might look a little different in the future, and those are some of the things that we're considering today, and we'll keep everybody in the loop. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. I understand Dr. Renodin's on the call. I can't see everybody on here, so I just wanted everybody to be aware of that. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if Jim or Dr. Renodin wanted to say a few words, you could just unmute your microphone and speak to the group. And if you'd wish not to, that's okay too.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I know everybody's doing a great job up there,
We're trying.
so I feel I'm part of you today.
We're
Good.
so glad you could come.
Thank you, everyone, for your hard work. It's good to see you all.
Yeah, it's great to have people coming in from Allegany. Well, thank you, Dr. Renodin. On behalf of all of us here, we have a lot of grantees on the call today. And, your name's on the foundation, and there's kind of this mystery out there to a lot of the local people. So it's great for them to be able to meet you and see your face. And we thank you for your role with the foundation all these years and the support that you've given us to make all these good works happen.
That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, if you want to mute yourself again, Jim, I'm going to open it up. We we're doing pretty well on time. So Sister Margaret Mary, I was going to see if there were any questions, and then in the last few minutes, ask you to say a few words, if that works.
Sure.
Does anybody have any particular questions or comments? We could do that for about maybe 5 minutes. And raise your hand. I think there's a little hand raising function on here. Maybe not. I'm still getting familiar with Zoom.
Or if people want to just raise their hand,
Yeah, physically raise their hand.
physically raise their hand.
Sister Pat Clem, was that you raising or are you just waving? No, okay, she's a no. All right, well, I don't see any immediate hands raised. So Sister Margaret Mary Kimmins, are you able to show us your face?
Sure. Just a few words. I just,
Excuse me, do you want to turn your video on, sister, so we can see you, or no?
I didn't realize it was off. Okay, thanks. I'm just overwhelmed with how much everybody does. Not only the Renodin Foundation, but what you do in the community. I want to especially thank our board members who are on this call today, and Jim Shively and our staff of Uta and Courtney, and of course Laura. She's got the mission in her mind and the charism, so we're really blessed to have her. I was very moved, Elizabeth and Vickie. I haven't seen you in 6 years. You remember our visit? Maybe she's muted. Anyway, when she first went to be in pastoral care. But it's overwhelming to me what's being done in as our sister, in the name of the Franciscan Sisters of Allegany through the Lyle F. Renodin Foundation. And it brings me to such gratitude that we can invest ourselves because we're getting older. We can invest ourselves in a different way in the local community, in the local communities, I should say. I was thinking of our sisters here at the Mother House, and I was happy to see that this is being recorded because they'll be thrilled to see what's happening. And also the not communion breakfast, the Lyle F. Renodin Foundation annual Christmas breakfast. What's the matter with me? I think I've been zoomed out. But every year we have a breakfast and bring our grantees and our sisters together. So that's kind of a highlight, which we haven't highlighted, and it's our second year not having that breakfast, right? But hopefully we'll be able to continue it. So on behalf of the Franciscan Sisters of Allegany, I thank everyone who is involved in any way with the Lyle F. Renodin Foundation and our sisters. So I thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, sister. And I just thought we'd close today with a prayer.
Yeah.
And many of you involved with us recognize the peace prayer. It's been attributed to St. Francis. He didn't actually make this prayer, but it does really encapsulate his thoughts, I would think, should he be here today. And as Sister Margaret Mary said at the end of our grantee, we have a grantee breakfast every year. We haven't been able to do that, unfortunately. But right now we are working on kind of a mini virtual breakfast that might be recorded, might take some parts of the grantees speaking today and put something together just to keep everybody updated if they weren't able to join today. But every year we end the breakfast with this peace prayer. So I'll lead everybody in this prayer, but if you want to pray along, I definitely welcome you to do so. And please know that this prayer is prayed every Wednesday at noon in our Mother House here in Allegany. I'm not sure of the exact timing, but it's prayed in our other ministries and in our other countries. And it's just a time for us to pause and still ourselves before God for a few minutes and just pray for peace in whatever way that takes shape and form. And I think we can all agree that a little more peace in our world today is probably needed. So with that, I'll lead us in the peace prayer. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Okay, thank you everyone for your participation today, especially our grantees and Sister Margaret Mary, our leadership liaison, and Jim Shifley, our board chair. It was wonderful to see all of your faces. And don't forget that upcoming grant deadline. And please at any time reach out to me if you have any questions. We're going to be uploading this presentation in another means once we have it to share with other people who maybe couldn't be here today. So thank you. God bless you and have a great day.
Okay, thank you.